about right. We want to see about 20 or so degrees warmer than our saturated suction temperature, which if you look at my gauge is approximately 33 degrees. So we're 18 degrees difference. So that's about right. That's where that number should be. We're going to take a look at our pressures now that the machine's been running for 5 minutes or so. And you can see a suction pressure of 60 degrees, which is about right for this outside air temperature. And then we have a high side or head pressure of about 215, which is again about right based on the temperature inside the home of 69 degrees. Again, we're going to check the amp draws on our compressor and our condenser fan motor out here. Make sure those are within specifications. So we have an amp draw of 1.3 on the condenser fan motor. And if we reference the nameplate on this unit, it's 1.4. So again, we're very close to what the system is rated for. We have compressor amps of 9.0. Our compressor is rated for 14.1. Under normal operating conditions, that should be around 0.65 or 65% of that rating. 65 to 75, which is again right where we're at. 9 is roughly 65 of 14. So we've got good pressures, we've got good temperatures, we've got good amp draws. Everything is looking really good in here. And the last check that we need to do to evaluate how well this heat pump is running is we're going to go inside and take some temperatures inside. So now what we want to do is we want to measure the temperature difference between the air coming into the air handler and the air coming out. So the best way to do this is to stick my temperature probe into the return and get a reading. We have 70.9, which is roughly, well, 71 degrees. And then we're going to go to the closest vent to this furnace and take a temperature reading there, which is right here in the bathroom, about 5-6 feet away. And we should see about a 25-degree temperature difference, maybe a little bit more than that with these outside air temperatures. So if you take your 71 and you add 25, we should settle out somewhere in the mid-90s. And as you can see, actually mid to upper 90s because we're a little bit warm outside. So we should probably be somewhere between 95 and 100. And I think we're going to settle out right there. Again, the longer the machine runs, the more it'll build towards higher performance. So we're reading roughly almost 95 degrees right now, which is really close to the numbers I'm expecting to see. So I am now satisfied that this machine is heating well and that it is charged correctly. The last couple checks we're going to do, we're going to operate the defrost cycle, put it into a test mode, verify that the defrost cycle is functioning correctly. And then even though it's cold out, we're coming into springtime, and I want to make sure the cooling side of the system is working right. So we'll do a defrost check, and then we'll run cooling for just a minute or so to verify that everything is functioning correctly. Alright, I'm going to initiate a defrost cycle and verify that it goes through all the steps and processes correctly out here. The reversing valve changed. Condenser fan turned off, and we're actually running in air conditioning mode. We're going to see this drop to somewhere down around 50, and this is going to build up and continue to build until the sensors that we check the values on read a certain temperature on the coil, and then it'll reverse it and put it back into heating mode. So we're down around 55 on the suction. Our high side pressure is at 150 and climbing. And it'll continue to run in this mode here for up to 10 minutes. But here, since we have no ice on it, it'll probably terminate rather quickly and go back to regular heating mode. And the first step of termination is it brings the condenser fan motor back on to lower the head pressure. The next step is it'll switch the reversing valve here, and you hear the small whoosh when it changes. And now we're back into heating mode. Again, the pressures over time will return to where they were before we initiated defrost. So we know we're running good in heating. We know the defrost cycle works correctly. The last step is to put this thing into cooling mode, and we're going to run it in cooling for, again, just a minute or two. We want to verify that it's running correctly, but because it's 46 degrees outside right now, it's really hard to run a heat pump in the air conditioning mode for very long. So I just manually put the system into cooling. We'll have to give it a minute for the pressures to settle out. Again, these pressures that we're seeing are low, but that's because it's 46 degrees outside. Typically, we want to see our suction pressure at 60 psi or higher, and we want to see our high side pressure approximately 100 psi or more above that. Now, we're not going to get those numbers today because of the temperature, but I can get a good idea of how well it's running by the pressures that I do see and the temperature I'm going to see inside coming out of the ductwork. So I have a suction pressure of 55, which is really close to the 60 I want to see. My high side pressure is very low. It's approximately 100, which is much lower than I would expect it to see, or expect it to be in a normal operating condition. But again, that's because it's 46 degrees outside. It's still wintertime. So this is the kind of pressure I would expect to see in a wintertime check. Let's go inside and we'll check the temperature coming out of the ductwork. So typically, we want to see about a 20 degree temperature difference when we're running in cooling. We knew from a few minutes ago that our return air temperature was 71. And right now, we're getting somewhere around 55, 56 degree air coming out of the ductwork. Now the ductwork is still hot from running and heating and for 10 or 15 minutes there. And I don't want to run the machine too long in the cooling mode like this. But I've got about a 17 degree split already. So I know I'm good in the cooling mode. Again, I don't want to run the machine in this mode for very long, considering the temperatures outside. So I'm going to be satisfied with that. Well, yeah, we're already down to 54 degrees. So I'm going to turn the thermostat off, and we've concluded our maintenance here. Everything's looking really good.